Hi, Mira.
Hi, Mav.
What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about climate change today.
Love climate change.
Do you love climate change?
I love when the climate changes. No, but it's a really interesting topic.
It's a really interesting topic, and there's a lot of information about it. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of science, and there's a lot of things that we're still learning. So do you know what the climate is?
The climate is the weather.
Yeah, the climate is the weather, so the weather changes every season. So in the winter, the weather's going to be kind of snowy and cold, at least here on Turtle Island in Nova Scotia. And it's going to be cold in the winter. And in the summer, what's it going to be like?
It's going to be hot.
And in the spring?
It's going to be rainy.
And in the fall?
It's going to be cold.
So that's climate. So climate is the weather and the temperature and the precipitation, so the rain and the snow that we expect in a given season. So climates change all the time. They change throughout the year. But climate change is the idea that, and the fact that our planet's climate is changing. So the planet is changing. What do you think this is?
Lots of things. I know that humans have a big impact on climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Pollution, greenhouse gases, stuff like that.
And we're gonna exactly 100%, no question mark. And we're gonna get into all of that. Have you also heard of this thing called global warming?
I have. Globe warms, gets warm.
The globe warms. If we break it up into a little word pizza, we've got two halves. We've got global and we've got warming. Global, the globe is
Warming.
the planet Earth.
Oh.
The
It
planet
is.
Earth
The
is
planet Earth is the globe.
warming, and this is because of something called the greenhouse effect. Have you ever been in a greenhouse?
I have.
Yeah? What's it
Lots
like?
of plants, warm,
What's it made out of?
glass,
Why?
sun.
Yeah, yeah. So it's made out of glass so that all the sun can come into the greenhouse, and then the sun kind of gets trapped in there. Not the sun itself, but the heat. So the heat gets trapped in there, and it's really good for plants, tomatoes, other plants and vegetables, things that we want to eat in the summer or in the winter, in one of our seasons. So greenhouse effect is when the planet itself is warming up. So humans are putting a lot of gases and a lot of emissions into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is kind of like the cloud layer that surrounds the planet. And the more emissions that we put into the atmosphere, the more kind of bouncing back that we'll have of the heat coming from the sun. So the sun energy comes in, hits the earth, and then instead of kind of bouncing back off into space, it's kind of trapped there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It's kind of like if you put on like a big blanket in the winter, you're going to be warmer because you're trapping all your body heat in and staying cozy. It's kind of like while you're wearing a sweater. It does the same thing.
I did this just for this.
Just for this.
Just for this.
The sweater that we're putting on the planet is a little bit too big.
Mm.
And our planet's going, whoa, it's hot in here.
I'm too hot.
Too hot in here.
Woo-hoo.
Since the kind of like late 1800s, the temperature across the planet has actually increased by about 1.1 degrees Celsius.
What happened in the late 1800s? Why was it that time?
There was something called the Industrial Revolution. You heard of this?
I have.
Yeah, you probably know.
It was a
little bit
leading
more.
question. I knew the answer. I was testing you.
Do you want to explain to me what the Industrial Revolution
Yeah,
is?
it's kind of the time when we went from our factories being like really small and like us going towards like large scale manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a lot of unexpected consequences.
Yeah,
It made life better, but it also made pollution worse.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So the Industrial Revolution, we've got all these emissions going up into the atmosphere. We've got our greenhouse gases. My favorite place that greenhouse gases come from are cows.
Mm. Cow butts.
Cow butts. Cows fart up a storm and they put all this methane up into the atmosphere and it traps heat around our little planet Earth.
Mm.
And it gets really warm.
We're in like a little cow fart blanket.
Take a deep whiff of that cow fart blanket.
Gross.
Nasty. So the reason we don't call it global warming is because now we have an understanding of how climate change is more than just warming. Because the climate is more than just temperature. The climate is also if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's windy. So global warming is less of just, oh, it's getting warmer, and more of, oh, there's other stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's stuff like floods, fires, more hurricanes. We've
Drought.
got droughts, exactly, but at the same time, more rain.
Mm-hmm.
So the climate is getting real wiggly and real weird. And that's because of humans.
That's sad.
That's kind of a bummer, but there are a lot of really cool things that we're actually doing to help combat climate climate change.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Name one.
We are reducing emissions. So
Yay.
you've probably heard of this, if you're at home, watching at home. You might have heard about, biking to work or school, or, walking to school instead of taking a car, or, reducing your air travel.
Or taking a bus.
Taking a bus. I love the bus.
Love the bus.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. We're also, protecting against things that happen because of climate change. So, have you heard of this thing called sea level rise?
I have. It's when the sea level rises. It's very self-explanatory.
Right there in the name.
Right there in the name.
So when the sea level rises, all of the houses and cities that we've built along the sea might be threatened. So it really depends on where you are on the planet, because the planet's pretty big and pretty complicated. But something we can do to help adapt to climate change is building cities and buildings that are going to be better at floods. Or maybe they're just not right next to the ocean. You don't really want to build your house on a sand dune these days.
No, I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah, you're going to get washed away like a little sand castle.
Oh, not a little sandcastle.
Bye-bye.
And I know there's also, like, seawalls. People are building seawalls in order to naturally deter sea level rise.
Exactly, yeah. You can build big seawalls. Some of these are natural, with like concrete and other engineering things. And some of these are like seagrasses. So just putting like natural species in. So you build seagrasses, you make sure you've got plants coming back, and these plants are going to grow and hold all the dirt together. And so when the sea level rises, all the dirt isn't just going to erode. So that's pretty cool. My favorite thing. For that, the Earth has warmed by about 1 degree Celsius. And that's not a whole lot. Like the difference between 25 degrees Celsius and 26 degrees Celsius, you can't really feel that, or at least I can't. But the fact is that the planet is warming up way faster than it should. So like we said, climate change, happens, and it happens very quickly. So it's not the climate change that the Earth is used to. So ice ages are one example of climate change. But the last ice age happened over 100,000 years. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
But our climate change has happened in the last couple of centuries. So that's really, really speedy, considering that, 10,000 years to change a couple of degrees, you're going to do that very slowly. But like 2 centuries to change 1 degree, that's pretty speedy.
That's fast.
And it means that a lot of animals aren't going to be adapted. It means that a lot of animals are going to move. So we have more like animals moving north and changing their migration patterns. It means that we actually are getting more plants. There's something called global greening.
Ooh.
Yeah, because there's more like CO2 in the atmosphere. Plants are growing a lot faster. And this is also because people are doing a lot more agriculture. So that means farming. So there's going to be a lot more plants because of that.
So the CO2, why is that causing more plants?
So this is something called photosynthesis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Grade 6. Grade 7, photosynthesis.
Plants.
So plants slurp in CO2, eat it up, and
spit out oxygen.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Bada boom, bada bing. So there's more CO2 in the atmosphere, so more plants are happy. Yay. And they're spitting out more oxygen, which is good. Yes, correct.
Objectively, yes.
Objectively, yes. So it's like kind of a downside because more CO2 is bad, but also an upside because more oxygen.
More oxygen. But then, if you look at, like, are there going to be more plants in the future? Maybe, yeah, there will be more CO2 so that plants can grow more. But then you also look at something called deforestation. So let's break that down. Forest.
A lot of trees.
Deforest.
Getting rid of them.
So in the Amazon rainforest, for example, there's a lot of deforestation. So a lot of these trees are being cut down. And this is also something called a carbon sink.
Yeah.
So it's not a sink that you wash your little hands in before you eat dinner. Nuh-uh-uh.
I didn't think it was, actually.
Fantastic.
I got that one.
This is a place where carbon goes to live, and it pretty much gets locked up in a little storage container, and that storage container is a tree. So carbon goes into the tree for a couple hundred years, depending on how old your tree is. But if we cut that tree down, where's that carbon going? It goes. It gets burned, a lot of it. A lot of it will get built into houses and stuff, but that carbon isn't locked up there anymore.
Yeah,
so
you're letting it go.
Setting it free. Setting it free, which isn't, a good thing. The carbon wants to be in a tree. I want the carbon to be in a tree.
I want the carbon to be in a tree, too. And I know that like reforestation is also a thing, like replanting forests that we've torn down, but it's also like you gotta be correct about the trees that you plant. Because if you're not planting the right trees, you're putting invasive species in the wrong places. It's a whole thing.
That's no good.
We gotta stop cutting down so many trees.
Mm-hmm. And if we grow the trees back, we want them to be trees that are naturally supposed to be here
Mhm.
and want to be here. So we can protect our natural species.
Yeah, our biomes, our environment.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So climate change is more than just warming, is like the big picture takeaway. It's not just like, oh, the earth is getting warmer, but it's like the earth is getting warmer, yes, but what does that mean for the ocean? So the ocean's going to get warmer. The sea levels are going to rise. What does that mean for the land? The trees are going to get greener, maybe, probably. It also means, you know, the air is going to get different as well. We're going to have more weather. We're going to have more extreme weather. We're going to have, starts with an H, ends with a cane.
I don't know what that could be. Could it be hurricane?
Boom. We're going to have more intense and frequent hurricanes, probably. Again, a big maybe, but we can see it in the last couple of years as well. So climate change isn't just, oh, it's getting hotter. It's like so many different things
are changing. That's why we don't just call it global warming.
Schmick-zack. So that's climate change in under 10 minutes.
Amazing. We did it. I feel like I learned so much.
I guess just one last thing is that, like, there's probably a lot of doom and gloom about climate change.
True.
But there's a lot that's being done. So, like, people are getting active. People are protesting. People are talking to their politicians. They're talking to their friends, their family about what they can do about climate change. They're recycling. They're making sure they're not polluting.
We're inventing new technologies like carbon capture technologies. Things like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Miss Technology.
I know. I have a computer science degree.
Do you know of any, like, cool
things about carbon capture stuff? Not at all. I just know that it's a thing. I know there's like a local company to where we live that puts it into concrete. Takes the carbon out of the air, puts it into concrete.
A carbon sink, perhaps?
Like a carbon sink, yeah.
Carbon sinks are everywhere.
Like a man-made carbon sink.
That's really cool. New technologies, new thinking, innovative ways of thinking, using some creativity.
Collective action. Individual action.
To work together.
To work together.
We're going to work together to build the future that we want.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So should we wrap this up?